Well, it looks like we made a little progress today on the pond build. I'm going to go and show you what they did. They brought a new piece of machinery over, which looks like I think it's a scraper. It's a big tractor with and they pull this scraper thing, and I'll go down and show you what it actually does, but pretty interesting. It's got a lot of tires, must weigh just no telling how much, but got that going. So yeah, this thing goes along, and I guess it scrapes. Maybe they can raise or lower this thing to go down and scrape and kind of flatten everything out. Ooh, this is a hoss. I'll bet that thing makes some serious work. All hydraulic. Anyway, maybe it's specifically for ponds, but it's pretty cool. I'm glad they got that going today. So we'll walk down here and see what's going on. One thing is they got all the brush, and we had a little rain last week. I would have thought they would want to go ahead and burn it, but maybe they're waiting for a little bit more to get to pile up before they start burning it. I don't know, but it's gonna be an awfully big burn pile. Pulled out another tree or two since the last video. Now normally for planting, we have a lot of clay down here in Tennessee, and normally for planting it doesn't make for very good planting, but for pond building it's actually pretty good. See how this is so hard? That is actually pretty important when it comes to the pond, because it keeps the water from leaking out. If it's just dirt like this, that's just gonna actually empty the pond. So a lot of times they mix clay in with dirt when they build ponds, because the water's got to, it's got to be held. So the clay helps with that, keeping that together. So yeah, there's a lot of clay here, so hopefully it'll hold well. But as you can see here, this is what that scraper's doing. It's going along, and it just allows you to grade the land. And this over here looks like it's probably going to be the building of the levee. Pretty cool. All this will be underwater. There's flags. There's actually a yellow flag up there that is going to be the edge of the levee, I'm thinking. So he's building up the levee. So yeah, my guess is this is the start of the levee. He's probably, there's definitely an art to this that I'm not very good at understanding at this point, because they certainly got to move a lot around, but how this gets compacted is going to be what I'm interested in seeing. They'll put rock over the top of it because I want to be able to drive across it, but how it gets all compacted, I guess they bring the scraper over it, just time and time again, pass after pass after pass, to try and compact it. But pretty interesting. So yeah, this used to be my old road here. That was a waste of a lot of money and gravel. It just kind of grows over so quickly. Too bad I can't figure out a way to reuse this, but it's all just in here. But yeah, if you remember, there were some big trees there they took out. Kind of all been flattened and taken care of. There's still some big stumps in there and big pieces of wood. Probably need to throw them on the burn pile. Definitely a different view. Pretty miraculous. There's the old backhoe. He's still gonna pull some trees out and stuff, or at least pull some limbs off. So he's got to have that here. There's the lavender, still doing okay. Had a couple look like they were dying. So I'll replace those this fall when it gets cold. And yeah, lavender typically don't mind the heat. Actually, they prefer the heat. Well, now that I'm doing the pond, I've been doing a little research on, you know, different history and things like that. And it's interesting. I've always been a fan of, you know, the early days of this country, and you know, our founding fathers and their principles and freedom and liberty and that sort of thing. And I don't know if you know this, but you know, Thomas Jefferson, one of our founding fathers, was a big agriculturist. He had a property in Charlottesville, Virginia, called Monticello. Monticello, I think is how it is. Anyway, it was this hundreds and hundreds of acres, but he always had a garden. He was kind of ahead of his time. He always had gardens, and he was always this is kind of got to be careful here. Growing his own food. He did rotational gardening and that sort of thing. But he said that he had a pretty interesting quote that was, "Cultivators of the earth are the most valuable citizens." And I think what he meant by that was, you know, he said that the people that were farmers and agriculturists and things like that were the most difficult to corrupt, because, you know, they lived a self-sufficient life. They lived on their own terms. They lived on their own farms, could grow their own food, and they were the ultimate in essential liberty and freedom. That's what they desired. So when he bought the Louisiana Purchase, or he made the Louisiana Purchase, paid $7 million for it, and his thought process was to put people on these, to essentially give the land away to citizens, so encourage them to grow their own farms and have their own homesteads, because he wanted them to be spread out across the United States and less corruptible people. Jefferson, you know, having just been through the War of Independence and fighting for our own form of self-governance, knew what was happening over in Europe, and he was trying to get essentially away from the urbanization. And so the Louisiana Purchase was one of those steps in that direction, to where we could have people running their own homesteads. And so essentially the Homestead Act of 1862, I think it was, which wasn't actually signed into law under Jefferson, it was Lincoln, but Lincoln essentially learned it from the founding fathers. It was to give people the ability to have acreage if they were willing to cultivate it. So it was a means of trying to get people to be less corruptible, more sustainable, you know. So that was the goal of the Homestead Act, and that was started by Jefferson, but completed by Lincoln. So, little history lesson there, which just brings into point, you know, the value of owning land, the value of potentially growing your own food, sustainability, freedom, liberty. George Washington was even like that. He, one of his famous quotes was, "I'd rather be working on my farm more so than being emperor of the world." He knew the value of farming too, Madison too, but they all did. And somehow we've found a way to get away from that. You know, we have food systems that are big commercialized food systems, and we've gotten away from these small mom and pop food producers, which is kind of sad, because, you know, there's a lot of people that would go into farming, would go into providing food for people, and would love that occupation, but it's just too hard to compete with the big box stores and commercial supply chains and things like that. So maybe one day, it seems to have had a sort of a renaissance in the last 10 years, 10, 15 years, where people are demanding higher grades of food, or better food. They're getting tired of the stuff that they're trying to shove down our throats, and so maybe we're headed in the right direction. I hope so, anyway. But our founding fathers, they had a vision that still exists today, over 200 years after their designing of the country. So just a little history lesson for you while I show you the pond as well. So there's the old pond. It's going to be beautiful. It's slowly but surely, they've been here, you know, a couple weeks. There's been lots of mechanical issues and stuff, but I'm sort of at their mercy, but I'm pleased with the progress we made today. Hope you all come back for the next video, and have a wonderful night.